Hey, honey, I haven't seen you for a few hours. How are you? Mr. Qualls.
Hold on a second. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Stokes and everyone else. How are you guys? You're in mute.
Haven't seen you for a few hours. How are you?
Uh-oh.
Mr. Qualls.
Here we go with the repeat.
Hold on a second. Okay. Let's get into tonight. Tonight's lecture is, I decided to circle back around because the first lecture I did was on white supremacy.
Okay.
And what is white supremacy?
I got it.
You got it? Okay.
I
So this time I'm going to talk about what is white supremacy and racism, how they're connected. But I also want to talk about the system of white supremacy, which is different than just regular white supremacy, because you see on TV sometimes the commentators are referring to white supremacy as like it's a distant thing. It's not them. We're not part of the system, but there is a system. So we're going to talk more about the system tonight. Okay, so let's kind of get started.
Hello, Maria and Darlene. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Stokes. All right.
So that means you're gonna talk about Trump tonight? I'm just messing. I'm just messing.
Yeah, I probably could do a whole lecture series just on Trump, but I don't want to give him that much airtime. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. Okay, can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, good. Okay, the topic is, what is racism and the white supremacy system in America? And it is a system. But I always like to start, my sessions off with thinking outside of the box. In this box is all my knowledge, all that I think I know about whatever I think I know is depicted right here within this box. I must keep in mind that there is more to know than what is in this box. So we always talk about expanding our mind, looking at other things, talking about reading books, read a variety of different kinds of books. Don't be stuck in a box. Okay. So what is racism and the white supremacy system? It is a global system of domination in all areas of our lives. The healthcare system / the sick care system, the food industry, the processed food, fast food, education, economics, politics, labor, religion, law, real estate, Black mental health, Black business, technology, war, miseducation of our children, sports, sex, advertisement, banking, and medical research. So it's everywhere. It's in our life, no matter which way we turn. In the past, the term construed extremist groups like the Ku Klux Klan or neo-Nazis, or in this case, up to date, the Oath Keepers and Trump. and all the other groups that were part of January the 6th of 21. The term, none of these terms refers to the political and social economic system where white people enjoy structural advantages and rights that other racial ethnic groups do not, meaning us. Many white people are unaware that this system even exists, which is why it is so successful. All right. What is the white supremacy system? Continued. It is a racist ideology that is based upon the belief that white people are superior to in many ways to people of other races, and therefore white people should be dominant over other races. White supremacy is not just an attitude or a way of thinking. It also extends to how systems and institutions are structured to uphold white dominance. So it's a system that is designed to keep that foot on our neck and keep us out of the mainstream. And most of us if you're looking at the news now, you're seeing all of this that's happening. And, this is 2023. You would think that we were past that, but it's like we take one step forward and 1,000 steps back. Okay. What does it mean to say it is a system? The most common mistake people make when we talk about racism is that it is a collection of prejudices and individual acts of discrimination. Somebody says something, calls you the N-word, or makes comments about somebody, and you think it's just one person. That's what he or she is a white supremacist, or they are racist. But it's a lot more than that. They do not see that it is a system, a web of interlocking, reinforced institutions, economic, military, legal, educational, religious, and cultural. As a system, racism affects every aspect of our life in this country. By not seeing that racism is systematic, part of a system, people often personalize the individual racist acts. Just what I said. They call you the N-word, or somebody says something on TV, or they imply, or they talk about boy. They use all these other terms, but it's a lot more than that. For example, they will reduce racist police behavior to a few bad apples who need to be removed, rather than seeing its existence in police departments all over the country and is basic in our society. All the different people that have been killed, probably the top one is George Floyd, simply because his police officer actually is in jail. But so many other ones that have been killed have gotten away with it. But and police officers feel it's okay because I'm part of the system. Once I put on that blue uniform or the badge, I'm invincible. The mistake is has real consequences. Refusing to see police brutality as part of a system, and the system needs to be changed, means that the brutality will continue. So we got to start thinking outside the box and start talking about how policing can change. Most of you already know that today's police came from slave hunters back during slavery time, because they didn't have police. But they started developing people, overseers, slave hunters as being given the authority to help white people keep their property, keep their slaves. And if they were runaway slaves, they went after them with a vengeance, sometimes killing them, sometimes hanging them, sometimes or lynching them, and sometimes or just bringing them back. So that was the early or baby attitudes of and police, how it got started, and they still have that attitude that they're there to protect white people, to white neighborhoods, keep us in check.
Excuse me, Mr. Qualls.
Yes.
There's a question and I can't answer it because I'm not in the this thing is saying I'm not in the meeting. It's saying
Wait a minute, just tell me what the question is.
the question is approximately what year was this picture taken, but it was a back a little bit when you first started. I can tell you when it stopped.
This one?
Yes, approximately what year?
This was during the 60s and 70s.
Okay. I was trying to say that, but it won't take my it won't let me answer. Okay.
Yes.
You can't go into the chat? You mean you saying like you can't write in the chat?
Nope.
You know how to normally get there? I'm just checking.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know what's going on. It says waiting room participant is not in this meeting. Do y'all see me? Y'all see me?
Yeah.
Oh,
All right,
well,
all right. Let's
okay.
we'll worry about that later. Okay. All right. What does it mean to say it is a system? All right. The need to recognize racism as being systematic is one reason the term white supremacy has been more useful when the term than the term racism. They refer to the system as, I'm going to read it. I have A, B, C, D, and E. A, the purpose of racism is much clearer when they call it white supremacy, because that's talking about the system. Usually you say racism is naturally directed at one person or maybe a group of people. But if you say white supremacy, which means that it defines a power relationship. Now, B, race is an unscientific term. There's only one race, and that's the human race. Black, white were invented and started to be called. It may be a group of people that are in the human race, but it's not a scientific or biological uh, name or first people. And we all know that everybody came from Black people. Let's move on to B. B. Racism is a scientific term. Although racism is a social reality, it is based on the term which has no biological or other scientific reality. C. The term racism often leads to dead-end debates about whether a particular remark, calling somebody an N-word, or action by an individual white person was really racist or not. We will we need to achieve clear understanding of racism if they analyze how a certain action relates to this system of white supremacy. D, the term white supremacy gives white people a clear choice of supporting it or opposing the system, rather than getting bogged down in claims of being anti-racist or not in their personal behavior. So the idea is when they, if you call a white person a racist or something like that, those that know, where you just said some white people don't know that it's part of a system, and some of them don't even believe it. And some of them people do believe that they are superior to you. Mm-hmm. Okay. These are a couple of books that some that I just showed that if you want access to or names of these books, I can give it to you later on. And this is a series of books. This book is absolutely great. What does it mean to say that white supremacy has historical based? Every nation has a creation myth, how they got formed, how the nation came about, which is the story people are told on how the nation came into being. Ours, meaning America, says the United States began with Columbus, or so-called discovered America, continued with settlement by brave pilgrims that won its independence from England with the American Revolution, and then expanded westward until they became enormous, rich country that you see today. Excuse me. Okay. This is the origin myth. It admits three key facts about the birth of growth of the United States as a nation. These facts demonstrate what white supremacy is fundamentally in the existence of the country. Okay, we're going to talk about the myth and how it came about. The United States is a nation state created by military conquest in several stages. The first stage was the European seizure of the land inhabited by indigenous people. The United States could not have developed economically as a nation without enslaved African labor. When agriculture and industry began to grow in the colonial period, a tremendous labor shortage existed. This is how we came to America, or coming to America. Not enough white workers came from Europe over and or other countries to America as invaders, and they could not put enough indigenous people to work in sufficient numbers. It was enslaved Africans who provided the labor force that made the growth of the United States possible.
That's cool.
Okay, the third major piece in the true story of information of the United States as a nation was the takeover of half of Mexico by war, which is today's Southwest, Arizona, part of California, New Mexico, all of those states, that area, and most of you are familiar with the history, that was taken over or bought by the Mexican War. This enabled the United States to expand to the Pacific. So once they came from the East Coast and kept moving west, taking up land and taking up part, because Texas and all that Southwest used to be Mexico until we had a Mexican war, and then we took it. So white people have had in this country have taken everything that they need to be successful. This enabled the United States to expand to the Pacific. That's opened up huge trade with Asia, markets for export, goods to import and sell items to the US. It also opened up vast mineral wealth in Arizona, agricultural wealth in California, and vast new sources of cheap labor to build railroads and develop our economy. So this country's history is just based on slave labor of people of color group. You know, I don't like to use the word minority. So they have a history of doing all of this. Okay, looking at this, what does it mean to say that white supremacy is a system of exploitation? The roots of the US racism and white supremacy lie in establishing economic exploitation by the theft of resources and human labor, justifying that exploitation by institutionalizing the inferiority of its victims. To the picture to the left, young Black men incarcerated, wearing the and they were, and that's after slavery, but this they changed after the Emancipation Proclamation. They still figured out a way to have slave get labor by arresting them. Okay, the first application of white supremacy or racism by Euro Americans who control.
Okay.
Excuse me, can everybody mute themselves? Thank you. Let me go back. The first application of the white supremacy or racism by the European Americans, who control U.S. society was against the indigenous people, the Indians that you see in the picture in the right. Then came the Blacks, originally as slaves, later as exploited wage labor. And that's what you see in this picture, exploited slave wage labor. They locked them up for vagrancy, locked them up for minor things so that they could have, and we talked about this in one of the other lectures, they actually sold their labor to companies or farms and they got a kickback, meaning whatever county or state that was had Black people doing this work. They were followed by Mexicans who lost their means of survival when they lost their land. During the Mexican War. Mexican labor built the Southwest, along with the Chinese, the Filipinos, the Japanese, and other workers. In short, white supremacy and economic power were born together. The United States is the first nation in the world to be born through racism. South Africa came later, apartheid. So apartheid existed in America way before it existed in South Africa. And if you read the book called Black Butterfly that my friend Bernard Stokes turned me on to, then you see that they call Baltimore apartheid Baltimore. If you read the book, you understand why. It also, excuse me, the United States is the first nation to be born out of racism, and also the first to be born out of capitalism. This is no coincidence. In this country, a history shows that capitalism and racism go hand in hand. Okay. Origins of whiteness and white supremacy as a concept. The first European settlers called themselves English, Irish, German, French, Dutch, but not white people, but not whites. Over half of those who came in early colonial periods were servants. By 1790, the population reached 2 million people, of, of whom 400,000 were enslaved Africans. So in some locations, Black people outnumbered white people in some counties or in some jurisdiction. An elite number of planters developed in the southern colonies. In Virginia, for example, 50 rich white families held the reins of power, but were vastly outnumbered by whites. Vastly outnumbered by blacks, should be sorry. In the Carolinas, 25,000 whites faced 40,000 black slaves and 60,000 indigenous people in that area. Class lines hardened as the distinction between rich and poor became more of a control and loomed large, and the fear of revolt. Now, simply because of the numbers, there were more, brought more slaves, and there were more slaves than white people. They were afraid of having a revolt, that they will rise up because they had the numbers, but they didn't have guns, or they didn't have, the firepower that a lot of whites had. Okay, let's talk about, this was called Bacon's Rebellion. There have been a lot of slave revolts from the beginning, but elite whites feared even more than discontinued whites. They feared servants, tenant farmers, the urban poor, the property-less, people that didn't own any property but were white, soldiers, sailors. They would join with black slaves in Virginia to form this Bacon's Rebellion. And in 1676 came the Bacon's Rebellion by white frontiersmen and servants alongside black slaves. The rebellion shook up Virginia's planters. Many other rebellions followed from the South Carolina to New York City, or the state of New York. The main fear of elite whites wherever was class fear. Their solutions was divide and control. Today we call that divide and conquer. Let's talk about how they did this. Certain privileges were given to white indentured servants, They were allowed to join militias, meaning the white people. They were allowed to carry guns. They were allowed to acquire land. They were allowed to have other legal rights not allowed or not given to slaves. So where they had unity in the rebellion because they were treated unfair, white people were smart enough to figure out, okay, let me take some of these lower class white people and give them certain rights, but still keep the black slaves as slaves and still have no rights. They couldn't own guns, they couldn't own land, all of that. With these privileges being declared white on the basis of skin color and conditional and continental origin, meaning they came from England, they made them superior to blacks and Indians. Thus, whiteness was born as a racist concept to prevent lower class whites from joining people of color, especially blacks, against their class enemies. The concept of whiteness became a source of unity and the strength for and they were vastly outnumbered. Euro-Americans, meaning European Americans, as in South Africa, another settler state, because they did the same thing there, Today, unity across color lines remains the biggest threat in the eyes of white ruling class. And basically what they're saying is they're okay with the present day structure, and they have done to me, an excellent job in divide and conquering us. Most of us know about the Willie Lynch letter. But also, we sometimes are fighting among ourselves. We are not worried about, they create things that say that Black women are smarter than Black men, or Black men, are not capable of taking care of their family. They're deadbeats. So all of these different things and it's created. So you have to really be careful, and I implore all of you to be careful about what is said about people, and where is the source of that, them calling you names. They came up with, welfare mothers back in the 70s. But those, and to say that some middle class Blacks, why are these Black women, having babies and can't have a man in the house? So they create these situations where we turn on our own people. Okay, just be careful about that. Today, unity across color lines remains the biggest threat in the eyes of the white ruling class. Okay. This is a little video I want to show. Today, unity across color lines remains the biggest threat.
What is white supremacy?
Can everybody hear this okay?
White supremacy exists when white culture has more value
This is
than
a
other
little
cultures.
Yes.
It exists when white people have a larger share of power and status because of the value society has placed on their skin color.
Let me start it over.
What is white supremacy? White supremacy exists when white culture has more value than other cultures.
Can everybody hear this
It exists
okay?
when white people have a larger share of power and status because of the value society has placed on their skin color. Many people associate white supremacy with the Ku Klux Klan, slavery, and genocide, which is true, but it's not always that obvious. When you look closely, you see white supremacy woven throughout our culture, where you might not expect it. Healthcare, education, employment, immigration, food access, and more. You see it in lending policies that result in Black people being denied a mortgage, or in company policies that compel non-white employees to change their hair to be considered professional, or in crime statistics which show white people getting softer sentences for the exact same crimes. Once we are aware of white supremacy in our world today, we must work together to dismantle it so all people can be represented, valued, and safe.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second. We'll just make.
Tyrone, I think just as an FYI, since you're going to be teaching this again, it appears that whenever you put a video on, you're getting backfeed from the fact that this is being recorded.
Right.
So you really can't, you can hear it enough to be able to decipher because of the slides, but you're constantly hearing what you just repeated or what just happened.
Yeah.
So
And I
that's note to self.
yeah, I have another monitor over here. So and that's where the sound is coming from. So let me do this.
You're clear as a bell now. I'm just saying in the future, if you show a video, you're getting that feedback from the
Right.
recording.
Right. Okay. Let's thank you so much, Ms. Wright. I appreciate that. Now let's talk about the rules of white supremacy. And there are rules. We're going to talk about the 6 rules. This is rule number 1. Thou shalt always deceive. The system of white supremacy has rules and codes that one must abide by in order to operate and receive benefits from it. The first and most important rule being deception. In a system as complex as this one, deception is essentially the oil that makes the motor run efficiently. Let me say that again. The first and most important rule being deception. In a system as complex as white supremacy, deception essentially is the oil that makes the motor run efficiently. In the system, history has shown us that systematic white supremacy has evolved over time from very blunt, in your face, calling you the N-word, calling you boy, calling you girl, in your face, to very discreet and clever forms of racism. Without deception, the system of white supremacy would not be as powerful as it is today, because everybody would would know who the enemy is. In order to understand in detail how the system of white supremacy moves through deception, we must first understand the strategies of war. A famous book written by Sun Tzu called The Art of War is a book that every African American or Black person worldwide should have in their home. And that book gives some of these rules that they run the world by, or have white supremacy. And most of us know that white people are just a very small, minute population of number of people in comparison to how many people of color are in the world. Okay, rule number 2, always make chess moves. Looking back on history of white supremacy, one thing that sticks out is about discipline, or how disciplined white people are. The system of white supremacy is all about making chess moves, very strategic, very calculating, as well as having multiple game plans involved. In the first rule, we talked about deception. It is this deception that allows them to execute chess moves. In order to understand why it is important for them to make these calculated moves, you must understand the logic in where white supremacy comes from. Enforcing the system of white supremacy is not for mere pleasure, but for mere survival in their eyes. They believe if they do not enforce the system, it will mean the extinction of their race. And they really do believe that. because they know that if you put a white person together with a black person, the offspring is going to be a person of color, no matter how you do that. They realize, they know that, and that's why they try to have this deception going on. It would mean the extension of their race. In order to keep this from happening, white supremacists have always been forced to make chess moves, whether it be political, economic, excuse me, or historical. Everything is strategic and calculated for the white supremacists. Going back to the book, The Art of War, it states that if your enemy is secure at all points, be prepared for him. That's a rule from the book. If he is superior in strength, evade him. If the opponent is temperamental, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak so he may grow arrogant. If he is at ease, give him no rest. If his forces are very united, separate them. Attack him where he is unprepared and where he is not expecting to be attacked. These are some of the rules of the game. And we as Black people have to understand that this is a game, but it's a dangerous game. And we all know, Ms. Wright said, talking about Trump. Trump has already said, and he put it on paper, that he's going to, if he gets elected, he's going to go after all these so-called institutions that protect Black people, the Department of Justice, because they came after him, and he thinks that in his mind that they are, he's being persecuted. So we got to be careful. Rule number 3, who is white is always right. To recap that we have what we've been over, rule 1 protects rule number 2, which is that in the system, hold on, did I miss? Oh yeah, it was 2, okay. Rule number 1 protects rule number 2, which is that the system of white supremacy, the art of deception, protects the ability to make chess moves. However, that leads one to wonder what protects the art of deception. Well, that is simple. It's called I'm white, and it's what I say. Every race of people on the earth has experience with I'm white and I say so rule. Whether you know it or not, this rule is the last side of the deadly white supremacy triangle. We're talking about a triangle. The 3 rules that we just talked about, and that's the last side of it. Rule 1 to 3 are the elements that keep white supremacy going. They must keep all 3 going in order to provide a united front. You may have heard me say deception is particularly the biggest key to the system of white supremacy. It is. But I'm white and I say so rule is just as important. And some of you may have run against white people and they think that they know everything, they're right. And just because they said it, it's the rule, it's the law. All right, this one I had a lot of fun with. Rule number 4, always stay on code. We have discussed the three big rules that have formed the white supremacy triangle. Rule number 4, however, is a branch from rule number 3. The code that one must stay on is simply white supremacy code. The code is not necessarily just a mindset, it is an action and a language, a way of communicating for white people, no matter where they are around the world. And you can see that in some of the things that Trump has says. Sometimes Trump speaks in code, just like when he said, when he was doing a debate with Hillary Clinton, and he said, Oath Keepers, they asked him about the Oath Keepers, and he told them to stand down and stand back. And that was a code. And basically saying, I got you, don't worry about it. So even if certain white supremacists have never met before, they are able to pick up on the code. It doesn't matter if they are unapologetic white supremacists or a passive, aggressive white supremacist. When the time comes to act, they will be there for their race. For example, one or more common symbols of white supremacy is the Confederate flag. Now, being that most white people always operate in the art of deception, they will try to go out of their way to denounce the flag as a symbol of white power. These suspected white supremacists will say things such as, oh, we're just honoring our Southern heritage, or we're just honoring our family member who lost their life in the Civil War. Don't be fooled by any of this nonsense. They are honoring white supremacy and the belief that this flag was founded on, which is what the racists, because that's what they stormed the Capitol with in January. They used it as a weapon. And every once in a while, you can see that you probably even driving around in Maryland, you can see they may not have a big white flag, a Confederate flag, but they may have a Confederate flag on their truck as a bumper sticker or something like that. Rule number 5, never forget your origins. I know that you think, and I know you are sometimes shocked and in disbelief on some of the stuff I've been saying, not only at the facts and the evidence that have been exposed to you, but at the thought of why someone would hide them from you. Most of this stuff has been hidden from us for a long, long time. Some of you, most of y'all that read a lot of books know a lot of this stuff, but most people don't. It makes a lot of us to ask the question, why did our people have to be treated in such a manner? Why did they have to be slaves? Why did they have to be beaten? Why did they have to be lynched? Why did they have to be burned? Why did genitals have to be cut off? Why did our women had to be raped? What they mean is that the question we ask ourselves in our everyday lives, no matter where we are or what we're watching, when we go back and look at the same of our ancestors, like Queen Mother Harriet Tubman, what gave her the drive to keep going back and back and back and developing and getting slaves and developing the Underground Railroad? We all had that drive. There is no difference between the difference when you look at white people. What possessed them to commit such atrocities against African people? as many scholars and historians have shown us, when African people were, were ruling the planet, and we were ruling the planet, there's a couple of books that talk about 50,000 years ago, 60,000 years ago. There weren't any white people. There were only black people, and we ruled the planet. There were people of color, put it that way. But they were peaceful and lived in harmony. There was no need for warring because we were sun people. We worked together to accomplish a goal. The picture here is showing white people in the Ice Age. Let's talk about that. Okay. Wars were non-existent back in the day when black people ruled the world, because as I stated earlier, African people viewed all of us as one race, no matter the skin color. There was no one thing on this earth that white people know today that they have not learned from black people. Everything that they have figured out or try to say has originated from us. Everything.
Mr. Qualls, I think someone had their hand up. Mr. Stokes,
Okay.
I think.
I can't see him. Can you tell me?
Mr. Stokes.
Somebody,
Yeah.
you have a question?
I didn't know if my hand was up, but I just more or less sent a message. You were referring to what Trump had said about the stand down and stand back. Well, that message was for the Proud Boys when they
Right.
were trying to make their attack on Washington just before the infamous January 6th. They were going to make an attack beforehand, and that's why he said that.
Right.
Mhm.
Thank you for that, Bernard.
Okay.
I appreciate you clearing that up for me. There is nothing that they have not learned from us, from hygiene all the way to mathematics. They have stolen from us. So why are we treated this way by white people? And that's a question that most of us sometimes challenge. And it's simply because I was with Mr. Stokes, and we were talking about that. But I was talking to the gentleman, and I said, it's called reverse psychology. And reverse psychology is you make the person think that they're wrong when they are right, but you want to make them, look good. So white people know that they are inferior to us, but they want us to think that they are superior and we are the inferior one. So it's just called reverse psychology. As I stated before, the secret lies in the origin of their beginning. The secret lies within the white man's soul. I said that yesterday, and one of the gentlemen in our meeting said, white people don't have any soul. You would think that they don't, but everybody, even white people, everybody has a soul. Whether it is a good soul or a bad soul is up for a discussion. Okay. To understand why white people act the way that
I have a question. I raised my hand.
Go ahead.
Well, I used to ask my mom that question, and I'm still not understanding. I could see how we may not like them because of the way they treat us, but why they actually hate us. I mean, I still don't get that, honestly. I mean, I know our purpose in terms of making us slaves, but to hate us when I think we would hate them for how they treated us. And that just always confused me. I mean, there's a difference to me than I want to make you my slave, I want to keep you down, but why do you hate? And I know why they do the atrocities to scare us, to keep us slaves,
Well, I think maybe hate may be the wrong word. to use.
Not from our standpoint. I can see why we would hate them as well.
I mean, for
But they hate us. I mean, look at how they treat us.
Well, I going back to the psychology, I think it's more that they fear us.
I would have to agree.
Yeah, more so than they hate us. They actually fear, and one of the books that I showed you from Roland Martin, he called it White Fear. He said that the browning of America is making them afraid of us, and that's is fear can turn into hate. If I fear a snake, and I've been around snakes for and I don't like them, then I may just say I hate snakes.
I got you now. That Bernard and Mr. Pauls, that did it. That makes sense.
And if I may piggyback off of that,
Dr. Pauls,
and what I didn't see her name.
It's right.
Miss Wright was saying, she is absolutely correct. Why is there hate? Well, it's hate because one, it's being taught, because not everyone knows what's going on except for what you've been told. Two, it is fear, the fear of knowing that they are shrinking, and because they are shrinking in terms of their popularity and so forth, they decided they need to develop a sense of anger. And when you get a bunch of angry folk together, then they plot and do what they do. Now, your reference of the snake, okay, we can hate a snake all day long, but why do you hate a snake? You see? But Black folk, the question then becomes, well, I can hate him, but why do you hate him? And here are people's reasons why. Well, if they mix, we no longer become the pure white citizens that we've been told that we are. This country was built on pure white. Again, what you've been taught. And when you get taught that, you develop hate. So that's generally what that is, because the reason why I also mention that to you is because it's not just white people who hate us. We've got Africans who hate us. Yeah. You have Indians who hate us, and it's, again, by what they've been told and taught and shown. So I just wanted to piggyback off that really quick.
Very good. Thank you so much for that, Bernard.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Let's go back to why white people act the way they do. First, we must understand where they come from. In the book, The Ice Inheritance, Prehistoric Sources of Western Man's Racism, Sexism, and Aggression, Michael Bradley and Dr. John Hendrik Clark go into the details of the environment that gave birth to the white man that we know today. When as African people try to understand the white man, that's what we're doing right here. To their skin, we need to be focusing on their skin. Focusing on them. The creation of their soul. Dr. Clark teaches us about the sun people, us, and the ice people, them. Ice people represent white people. The sun people represent African people. In order to properly understand, we first must compare the contrast, the lifestyle between the two classes of people, starting with ourselves. We, our sun people, Black people, have a very peaceful culture. We have a very loving and caring personality. They don't. Just let me kind of put this in my words, and Bernard, if you think I missed something or I misspoke, please say so. If you look at the Ice Age, when was the Ice Age? Ice Age was maybe 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. So white people were in the Ice Age, and that's how one of the theories, and there's quite a few different theories, but one of the theories is that some Black people migrated out of Africa after a few thousand years in being in the Ice Age, and that their hair changed, their nose changed, their pigmentation went away because they had to stay indoors. It was the ice age. They couldn't go outside. They in the sun and grow fruits and vegetables. They had to eat animals, mostly that they caught. So, but they also became cannibals. They were eating each other. They were aggressive. There's the white people's spirit or their soul is tainted with aggression, with hatred, with cannibalism, with all those negative things. Whereas the Sun people are loving people. We want to get along. We want to help one another. We want to raise our children. Completely different kind of personality, and that's why they can do what they do. It doesn't bother them. And Trump is an example. A lot of white men are narcissists. White men have been built up and put on this pedestal that they are right, they're the almighty. But white men have a fear of black men.
If I may also interject on that, the theory was that Europeans, whites, whomever we want to call them, were a derivation of the Caucasoid region, Caucasoid Mountains, which is a very cold region. And that's the way it's been presented. Now, there's a lot of information that pertains to this, but we kind of have to dig into it. But the reason why a lot of their hair is longer and thicker, and that their noses are flared, it's slim, so they didn't have to breathe in as much cold air. And they had the hair. Yes. Right. So they were and they were in mountains and so forth. And that's why they don't talk loud, because they didn't have a need to. Whereas with us, we talk loud, we speak loud, because that was our method of communicating to other folk. So just to kind of just slightly touch on it, that's one of the reasons why you have that sort of mindset. It takes a deeper research, but that's really a start. Them coming from the Caucasian, coming from the Caucasoid Mountains.
Yes. And
hold on, could I make a very
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I make a very brief comment?
Absolutely.
Also,
hello, how are you?
White people are very smart, and they know what we are capable of achieving. And I really think that that's one of the reasons why the systematic racist laws that they put in place to hold us back, because they know what we're at. We overcame slavery. We overcame Jim Crow. So they know what we're capable of doing, but they put laws in place to hold us back.
Yes.
Ruth, may I ask a question, Ruth?
And all the inventions that were made by Black people.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. But my question is, Ruth, you mentioned that they're smart. Okay. What is the definition of smart? What makes them any better than us? You see what I'm saying? Because that goes back to that same premise of, well, that person's got good hair.
Mm-hmm.
You know? You see, it's the same hair, just a different texture. We are learned people. If it were not for us, they would not exist.
Right.
So the smart, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're smarter. They just are united.
No, I'm not saying that they are smarter.
No, I know that, but I think they're just united in their decisions when they decide to do something that relates to us.
Right.
Thinking.
I would use the word they're much more cunning.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And they are fighting for their survival.
Exactly.
And they have looked at technology and still looking at different ways. Now they're talking about AI. The thing of cloning was, around for a while. They thought that they would be able to clone white people. I still think that they're working on that, but they are trying to figure out any way that they can to survive this browning of America, or browning of the world, and how they're going to survive. Because if you just start looking at time, and as you go through, and white people, their numbers are constantly dropping. The prediction is somewhere around 2000, from 45 to 2050. they will be less than 50% of the population. So their numbers are constantly coming down. We more than likely we may not be around, but maybe our grandchildren or our great grandchildren will be around because if white people don't figure out a way, you know, there are more black people or more people of color coming around. There are more people in Africa. They're it's like they are in their own population control. They are they're not making 2.1 babies per family. They're down to 1.6 per family, and they've already gone past the point of no return. So that's why the numbers are constantly coming down. So it's that kind of, as you said, as Ms. Wright said, is that kind of fear that brings them to hate us. They have thrown everything, the kitchen sink, the garbage disposal, everything that they can at us, and we've survived. So, they can't get rid of us. A lot of people don't know that when Lincoln was getting ready to sign the Emancipation Proclamation, that before that they had talked about sending all the blacks back to Africa. That was what he was going to do. But that didn't work out, and he got a lot of pushback from that. So he eventually signed it. But that was one of their first thoughts, is to send them back to Africa, get rid of all the blacks and just make America all white. But you see how that worked out.
Well, then they wouldn't have anybody to do their labor.
Exactly, right. Yeah, because they don't want to do that. Most all the hard work has been done, but you still need people of color in the agriculture field, in the automobile industry. You still need people. You need worker bees. Bottom line, and you will always need worker bees. And as long as that, because white people, sometimes white people most of them think that they're above doing that. Okay, let me continue on. So that's talking about the oranges. Here we are. Always remember the keys. Number 6. This is the last one. The last rule we're going to discuss and break down in the system of white supremacy is always remember the key lies within the 3. Our brother Tariq Nasheed talks about it in Hidden Colors. If you haven't heard about Hidden Colors, you really should either go on YouTube and take a look at it, or try to get the CDs and take a look at it. Hidden Colors is a series of videos, documentaries, and they are excellent. I highly recommend them. Always remember our brother. I'm sorry. Let me go back. One of the key ways white supremacy operates through is called the 3 M's. Now, I hope I don't hurt anybody's feelings, because this is going to be some of the stuff I'm going to really say, because really make you scratch your head. The 3 M's: missionaries, merchants, and military. Let's start with the missionary. The system of white supremacy and its follower understand that in order to take people's land, you must take their mind first. White supremacists are the smartest people in the world when it comes to understanding the power of religion. I didn't say they were smart, the smartest people when it comes of how to use religion. So knowing this power is the key when it's time for white supremacy to take over a country. Implement the rules of white supremacy. Who better to do that than the missionaries? They send the missionaries out to the poor countries, to brainwash them about religion, about Christianity. This is in the book. After all, in 2019, they convinced the world through deception and violence that God looks like them. The white, as you can see, the white, all the paintings on the walls in the Vatican, everything, like God is white. And that's what they want everybody to believe. And nobody knows what color it is. All right. You look at
No, that is very good, because I wonder why missionary work, why are they trying to convert other people's religion? It just doesn't make, this makes sense now that you're saying it, but it's like,
right.
oh, please join a mission and go over to Africa and help them become Christians.
And what they teach you in the Christian religion, turn the other cheek. You know, you want to help thy neighbor. So they brainwash them about Christianity to make them passive, so that they can come in and do number. I'm going to talk about the second M, which is merchants, and that what that means is the missionaries come in with these poor countries and they offer them trinkets, they offer them water, they offer them food, and they teach them about the white Jesus. And because missionaries, that's what they're going to talk about. The Jesus is white. So when you understand that that's what they're going to use, and the term merchants mean, okay, we're going to uplift this country. We're going to let McDonald's come in. We're going to let General Motors come in. We're going to let all these powerful companies come in and help build up this country. But more than likely, some of these poor countries like Africa, they had a lot of minerals, a lot of wealth, gold, diamonds, plutonium, all kinds of good minerals that we need. Africa is the biggest supplier of what they need to make cell phones from. So, so that's the missionary work, and that's once they coming in. And if all of that does not work, and to stabilize the country, the last M is the military. So we're talking about the 3 M's. But the first one is to brainwash them about Christianity. So, and most of you have heard me say this before, the only reason that Black people today, and we are the most religious group of people probably on the planet right now, I mean, in America, more so, is because of slavery. Our forefathers before slavery were not Christians. They may have been another religion, but they weren't Christians. And we believed in we had a strong spiritual attachment to the Creator. We were very spiritual people. We weren't religious people, and we definitely weren't Christian. So they took the Bible and introduced the slaves to Christianity to keep them from being runaway slaves. Okay, so let's go. You will see most time colonization happens as a result of religious beliefs and come through the religion. The priests would come first to establish a religious base. Most times in poor and underdeveloped countries, they would offer a little food, water, in order to grow the belief and the trust of the people. It's especially easy for them to do this in poor countries because poor people who have nothing will fall for anything in order to get what they need. Take Haiti, for example. We know Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere. Haiti is a country that has a long history of purposely being sabotaged and looted by the Western world. If you go to Haiti today, one thing you will notice is how many white missionaries there are in Haiti. Several of our brothers, such as Tariq, have been to Haiti and noticed that a significant number of white tourists flying flying to Haiti on a regular type base. Most of these tourists are there to spread the gospel and the gospel of, the white Jesus. I remember looking at on a social media one day and seeing white missionaries over in Haiti claiming they were spreading the Christian word and the faith system. This is by no coincidence, and is nothing but a form of military strategy. Look at the stats. They've done that 86% of Haitians are now Christians. Christianity that got the white supremacy off their back because the Haitians had a revolution. And this is what I'm getting point to. Haitians had a revolution, and they got Christianity, or they got the people off their back. But now they're back to it. You see white supremacy understanding that the missionaries are very important, especially in a country like Haiti, because they remember what happened the last time Haiti got from under the spell of Christianity. Make no mistake about it. They are very much aware of the importance of the first M, the missionary. And most of you know that they're missionary. They send the missionaries in every poor country that they have, send them over there, and especially in Africa. But the game plan was so they could take all the wealth. It wasn't just to feed them. There's always a game plan, and when you watch TV, I know my wife always says something to me, always about, you watch it too much MSNBC, but I look at TV for what some of these programs for what they're not saying. I hear what's coming across, but I'm looking at it for what they're not saying, because what they're not saying is a lot more important. And I'm figuring out where they're going, just like they've been. And I'm gonna do a little bit of commentary on Israel. And I know most of you know that Israel is surrounded by people of color. It is, and that's one of the reasons Joe Biden is so adamant about they are the only white, so-called white, and Jews were not really white. In fact, my son showed me a picture of a Jewish rabbi saying, "Y'all left black, and now you're coming back white." So, and they were, because you're not over there doing the Hebrews and Asenaki Jews were black. So what they did when they do is want you to believe that this is their the deception, and that's the reason that I look at news, because I'm trying to figure out where the deception is coming from. But what point I was getting to is they are calling the Palestine and mostly Hamas. They're calling them all kinds of I've looked at tons and tons of interviews and from all different kinds of Jews, and all of them you must be reading from the same script, because they're calling them barbarians. They're calling all these different names. But just remember, Black people, they once called you the same thing. You were terrorists. The Black Muslims, Black Panthers were terrorists. If you H. Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael, if you were Black Power, you were a terrorist. They call you all kinds of names, and that's to get people to. That's the part of the brainwashing. So don't buy into that.
But what about now? They're saying that they have all their military commands under the hospitals and the schools and the whatever, and
Yeah, well,
that's why they're killing them. And then they don't talk about the apartheid that Israel had by not letting the Palestinians, the way they were treating them prior to all of that. All that's coming out now, and it kind of keeps you in the middle. Like, now wait a minute, we supporting Jews, but why are they attacking Jews over here in the United States? That's what's like. This is all messed up.
Well, it's going to blow up because I see the war in Israel as a race war, because you're talking about and they really don't want to have a two-state solution. At least the prime minister doesn't. But they're going to have something, because they don't want to run the Gaza Strip. They don't want to be there. No, they want to make sure that they are confined, but that's not going to work. The world is not going to let them do that. And unfortunately, Jews have that arrogance about them. They know that if that they are backed by the United States, the most powerful army, the most powerful country in the world, and they have that backing. And that's because so many Jews in America fund presidential campaigns, fund congressional campaigns, fund. Who owns the central bank?
The Jews, the Jews.
The Jews, exactly. So
they kind of caught now, because I think at the same time they're defending Israel, people are now seeing how how Israel was treating the Palestinians, because they overflooded our city council, our city hall today. Palestinian people were down there picketing. They took voices at the podium. They were calling out all the atrocities that Israel has done way prior to October 7th towards those people.
Yeah.
We're now getting educated on that, whereas at first it was just, oh my gosh, they just attacked those people. They're barbaric, kind of like what you said, the lies. But now the whole truth is starting to come out, and now you're like, hey, now wait a minute, everybody killing everybody over there.
Well, one of the questions also is, what is a Jewish life worth in relationship to a person of color? They killed, the number says they killed 1,400 Jews. That's the number that they're advertising. But they've already killed 10,000 Palestinians. And so is it one for every one Jew you kill 10 people, or 1,000 people? So and
they're no better than them, because they literally want to wipe them all out. They're not fooling nobody talking about something. They just want to wipe out Hamas. They want to wipe out Palestine.
But most people, and I know y'all do, but realize that until 1948, that area was called Palestine, and that's the basis of Hamas. The reason that they're upset, the reason for the wars, because England had Hamas. They were under English control, but English led the charge, and the world went along with it. United States went along with it to give the Jews that came out of from Germany, give them their own state. And that's, you keep hearing them say they're entitled to defend. They're entitled to have their own state, but they took the land from somebody else. the same thing that America did to the indigenous people here. So stuff just comes around. You got to think beyond what you just see on TV. Okay.
You are so right.
Okay. This is wrapping it up. This is the information if you need to get in touch with me. But what I've added now, because this is being recorded and it's up on YouTube. The YouTube address, Total Health Care Now. So if you go once we shut it down, you'll be able to go back and look at it again if you want to do it, and you can tell your friends about it. All I ask you to do is for them to click a like and subscribe. And as always, I always appreciate all that y'all have done and giving me financial support to keep this going. And I'm not going to apologize for having to take a pause, because I knew I had to do it for a good reason. My sister is recovering from the death of my brother-in-law, Reggie Haysbert, and but I'm back on track now. We will have the next class will be the week after, Monday after Thanksgiving, and then we'll keep on going because two of the holidays that are coming up, Christmas and New Year's, I'm not going to have classes during that period of time. So, but I'll before then I'll let you know the schedule and what we're going to talk about. But I thank all of you for all your support, and I know my wife usually puts the stuff in the chat room for his PayPal and oh yeah, my wife just said don't forget to I said like on the YouTube and share. Share it with people, subscribe, and from now on, all the lectures are going to be. It's going to take me a little bit of time to edit some of the previous ones and put them up on there. But what you see is in red. That is the address for the YouTube, so you can tell your people that may have missed the class. And that's where we want to get the information out. So thank all of you. Y'all have a great Thanksgiving. You have your own Thanksgiving. Because
Mr. Tyrone,
yes.
how you doing? This is Marilyn.
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm coming along. I'm coming along with that angioplasty. Guess who I ran into last week at the doctor's office? Of all people, Miss Joyce. I did her just like you. She know who I was. Wait till I talk to Tyrone.
Pardon me?
Wait till I talk to Tyrone. I'm going to tell Tyrone who I saw, how you did me.
Well, I'm glad.
I did her just like you.
Yeah, I'm glad you got a chance to see Miss Joyce.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. We're gonna start some more classes in soon. This is just FYI. There's a coalition that's been formed for the Baltimore City, and it's dealing with diabetes, and they want us. In fact, I just had a meeting today with the young lady as part of the coalition, and it's being put out. The coalition is under the Baltimore City Health Department, and they're trying to reduce the numbers for diabetes. And they want me to train some of the people, the community health advocates, and also develop a force that can teach and the National Diabetes Prevention class. So I will keep you informed as we go forward with that. That is just brand new news. But we're gonna come back, and for those that want to be in the class, you're are welcome to be in the class. We're going to do it by zip codes again, and also we're looking for Black men. Part of the grant that they have, which is substantial, they're looking for to focus on Black men. And that's one of the reasons they're bringing me in, because I can have access to a lot of Black men and also the Black people. But St. Agnes, John Hopkins, University of Maryland is going to be all part of that. And I told them, I said, those are white institutions. If you look in Baltimore City, majority of the people that have diabetes or pre-diabetes, they're Black. You need some more Black instructors. They're listening to me. So anyway, but thank everybody, and thank you for all the contributions and the support for you. I mean, most of y'all are part of the group. I think because we miss so many times, people tend to put other things on Monday night, but we'll build it back up. And the main thing is people can now go on YouTube and look at the lesson if they missed it. And as I said, just do a like and also do a subscribe and also share it with people. Thank all of you. Anybody have any more questions? Okay. Well, thank all of you for being here. I appreciate you. I love you. Y'all take care and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Make sure you.
So we're not going to have any more groups until December, is what you're saying?
No,
or January.
No, the next one of this one will be the Monday after Thanksgiving, which
okay.
But that is still, I think it's the 28th.
Okay.
Yeah, it will still be in November. And then I may just do one in December, and then we'll take a hiatus for the holiday, because I said Christmas falls on a Monday, New Year's falls on a Monday, and so we'll probably come back like the second week in January. But I'll send out notices to everybody so you'll know.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Be safe.
Okay.
All right.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.